What's going on, everybody? It is the one and only Q from Retro Q Gaming back in effect as always. And I want to welcome everyone to the sixth lovely little episode we have of the Quack experimental podcast. And this is a very special episode. And you might be wondering, Q, why is this a special episode? What makes this any different? Well, we're here on the 5th of May, the month of May, the best month of the year, for those of you who don't know. And granted, we're one day late, but it's Star Wars month. Because apparently May is Star Wars month. I realize on the 4th we can all don the lovely May the 4th be with you, Revenge of the 5th, and something of the 6th. I don't remember it. They tried to pull it off so much anyway. But I decided, you know what? I'm a Star Wars fan. I will join in the festivities. I will don ye old gay apparel. And, well, what can I say? You know, I'm fitting in. I'm fitting in. And wait, you feel that? There's something wrong with the Force. I can't put my finger on it, but I don't know. I guess I'll have to ask Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan. But anyway, moving along, while we still have some midichlorians floating through the air, because that's apparently how they work, and never mention ever again. But we have some stuff to talk about. Now, I'm looking at this list here of stuff to talk about, and woo lad, some of it is questionable at best. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it is questionable at best. So let's get going. Gotta go fast, as they say, because we are going to start with the Sonic the Hedgehog film trailer, the live action / CG render Detective Pikachu wannabe film trailer. Now, a lot of mixed reactions. Not even a lot of mixed reactions, just a lot of misunderstood and a lot of questionable shit. A lot of people have seen this trailer. Chances are you've seen it too. And you just wonder, what the hell were they thinking when they designed Sonic like this? It's absolutely insane how they did this and how they thought fully producing this in a film was a good idea. It's absolutely awful, absolutely terrible in that regard. His design is brutal. There's been massive fan outcry everywhere through a bunch of different websites, tons of different YouTube videos, all which have the same thumbnail reaction, the usual YouTuber one that they all do because, well, they're all just carbon copies of each other. But anyway, because of massive fan backlash, or let's call it criticism and feedback, the directors and the producers and all of the show of the film have decided, okay, we hear you. This is not your Sonic. This is not what you want, you the fans. So we're going back to the drawing board. Now, apparently the film is going to still come out at the same time, but apparently they're going to redesign Sonic, and they're going to make him look a little bit better, make him look like the Sonic we resemble, instead of this weird, like, uncanny valley Children of the Corn deal. Because that's just really bad in their current one. How it got past focus testing and into full production is beyond me. But I think it's really funny because there are many people out there, many people much more talented than myself, because I have, like, no artistic talents whatsoever. Yes, he says as he makes crappy YouTube videos. But there's people out there who have fixed Sonic. They've made like 3D renders of Sonic, of how he should look, along the lines of, I don't know, Sonic Adventure, but better. That kind of thing. More modern Sonic. Hell, Sonic 2006, or something even newer. And they have managed to make it fit in and look considerably better. So how these Hollywood executives and studios didn't get this right, I don't know. Maybe they were just going for a whole weird, semi-wannabe realistic thing, and the nightmare fuel that is a lot of the stuff in Detective Pikachu, but this ain't it, dog. This ain't it. It's going to be curious to see how it actually happens, and what they change it around, and how it's going to look. If it's going to look more akin to the Sonic we know and love. I know a big problem is the eyes. Although technically, if you look at the actual official design of Sonic and all, we know he's got the kind of huge white and all. They're not actually his eyes. They're goggles. And we've seen official artwork with Sonic with the goggles off, and he has little tiny eyes. The little eyes in the middle are his eyes. The rest are just giant goggles. I can't wrap my head around that, but we'll see how it goes. It's questionable. Now, moving along, we got some hardware to talk about, and well, it's actually first in the several parts of the same kind of hardware. So we have, first up, the Oculus Rift S. That's right, VR is not dead. No, I'm not talking about PSVR. No, I'm not talking about the absolutely awful and atrocious Nintendo Labo VR, because wow, 480p 20 FPS games, am I right? And no, that's not just the regular Switch versions. Wow, we're getting into Switch head on the record time here apparently. So some people will say. But anyway, Oculus Rift S. So they're coming out with a new headset, the Oculus Rift S. I have a regular Oculus Rift. I bought it when we were in 2019. I would have bought it at Christmas in 2017. And I'm fairly happy with it. I haven't got to use it too much, but I have been getting back into it. But most importantly, the Oculus Rift S is their new updated version. So it's going to come out at $399. It's getting a proper upgrade. It's going to have 2560 by 1440 resolution per eye, which is really good because that's better than what was in the previous one, which was 1280 by 1440 per eye. So there's a significant boost there. Also, what we have is, compared to say the likes of the competition and all as well, you have, wait a sec, no, I'm sorry, I'm reading my notes here incorrectly. So it's going to be overall resolution of 2560 by 1440, which works out at 1280 by 1440 per eye, because 1440, 1280, 1280, so it works out there, versus the previous version, which was 1080 by 1200 per eye. There we go, my notes were terrible. I should really get on that. So there is a big boost, a big bonus compared to the previous version in resolution. Now, of course, that's going to take an extra hit on your graphics card and your CPU and all to render all that, but that's beside the point. The fact is that if you have the hardware to do it, it's there, basically. Now, also, they've got what's called a Rift S inside-out tracking system. Now, the main reason for that is because if you have an Oculus Rift, I'm sure many of you out there who've seen people use it or watched something about it, mainly the Oculus Rift runs on little sensors. Now, I don't know about all of them, but my one has these little USB sensors. They're like, it's got a flat thing, like a plate. It's got a stand and the sensors on top of it. I plug them into my computer. I typically leave one here on one side of my desks. I leave the other on the other. I stand back there. I move the chair and everything out of the way, and I play my Rift just like I would. So for some people, the space and the setup and all can be a bit of a problem. Some people try to play Oculus Rift in like a tiny little room or whatever, and it just doesn't work very well. You need minimum space requirements for certain stuff. But with the way they have the new Rift S inside out system, they have sensors built inside the headset. So it tracks the head unit and the controllers without the need for the base station sensors, so which are the two sensors. So that's kind of cool, because that way, like, you can sit here, you can have it recognize, measure the distance for everything, and then when you move your head, it will recognize the distance from whatever it was seeing the wall or anything is further away. So it'll recognize your position and your angle and all as well, instead of the need for direct sensors. So that can come in handy for some people out there. Personally, I don't mind with the sensors. I know if I'm setting up my Rift, because I don't keep it connected up the whole time, I realize that I'm going in with a setup investment. I know for my Rift, for example, I have to plug in the two sensors. I have to, well, the controllers are wireless, so I just put the batteries in for them. I also have to plug in the Rift headset. I have to throw in a USB cable as well as a HDMI cable. And I understand that that's the setup. So maybe for some people, it can come in a little bit better. So I think that is kind of cool in that regard too. It's coming out on May 21st, or it could potentially just be the pre-orders for it on May 21st. But we'll see how it goes. But I do think what's especially interesting about the whole Oculus Rift S thing, it was announced pretty much the same day as the proper full details for the Valve Index, as well as when the pre-orders for it went live. Now, I've got a big list of stuff for Valve Index here because we didn't really know anything about it. We knew like very, very small things about it from when I talked about it previously, but all the proper details, the proper info and all has come out, and that's what I want to talk about. So we have the Valve Index. First off, what is the Valve Index? Well, Valve are making an in-house first-party VR headset. Previously, they worked with HTC to make the HTC Vive their own proper first-party headset, or third-party headset, the Valve one essentially. But now this is all done in-house. It's designed and all in-house. So, is it going to? We know there is new versions of the Vive and all, just Vive Pro, all that stuff. But anyway, let's go with this one. It seems like they're all going to coexist together. The Valve Index is shipping July 1st. It's gone live for pre-orders and all on Steam already, and all of them have actually sold out on their pre-orders. Or there's a caveat with that because they seem to have different allocations for Europe and America and all. The American pre-orders sold out very, very quickly. So that's promising, at least anyway. So we have a resolution of 1440 by 1600 resolution per eye, which is the same as the Vive Pro. Interestingly enough, that is different than the Oculus Rift S. It's got less horizontal resolution. Oh wait, no, it doesn't. I'm looking at this incorrectly. It has a higher resolution than the Oculus Rift S per eye. Oculus Rift S is 1280 by 1440 per eye. This one is 1440 by 1600 per eye, so it is a little bit higher, just like the Vive Pro. They've quoted themselves with another factor to sharpness: custom full RGB LCD display with 50% more subpixels than OLED. So, I mean, this could come across as marketing speak. They basically have some type of, I guess you could say, I won't say HDR. What's a HDR IPS panel or something in there. They have some sort of weird pseudo full custom RGB LCDs inside for the eyes, which, 50% more subpixels than OLED, because OLED is technically the best as it stands for the moment for picture quality and what's the word I'm looking for, contrast and all, and sharpness. So yeah, we have to see how it goes. We have to take their word on it. Companies will always claim they have the best things ever. Remember when when Sony redesigned the Vita and they said, oh, we have this new super LCD technology, blah, 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 and everyone fell for it. And then people, like on day one of release, people were comparing the OLED original Vita to the shitty new LCD Vita. And despite all Sony's claims and the marketing and the hype and the paid shillery around it on all the journalist websites, yeah, the new LCD one looked shit by comparison. I thought that was very funny. People just disregard basic natures of technology. Remember back when it was LCD versus plasma? Plasma is an inherently better technology. It's the same with OLED. OLED is an inherently better technology, so it has significant advantages. That's why you have all these companies, all these technologies and all being created to try push, like I said, the likes of LCD to bring it up to other levels of quality. You have to get HDR on like LCDs and stuff to get their contrast, to get their color and all up to everything else that has something in around there naturally or better. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Back to, no, you know what? We're talking about LCDs and OLEDs. It's fine. Now, we have persistence of 0.300. Let's try that again. Persistence of 0.330 milliseconds, which increases sharpness during motion. This could be an issue on some of the previous headsets because they would kind of update differently, and the way they would, I won't say track, it would be in flux. It would fluctuate back and forth. So sometimes it would be quicker, sometimes it would be faster. So sometimes things could look a little bit, on TVs when they have that like fake motion thing, the motion could be off. It could be a little bit faster, a little bit slower because it was inconsistent. But with the likes of this, if the persistence remains the same, the sharpness during motion will be there. So it will always update at the same time as you're turning, and everything will be sharp. It's not, or as sharp as possible, or at least increased based on previous models and other different variations on it as well. Which is good because no one likes motion blur. I know. I mean, why would you have 144 hertz 1 millisecond monitor and then turn on motion blur? I don't know. Oh, fun fact, motion blur is essentially created or mostly implemented in games because consoles will have a low frame rate. So it hides the details and hides the crap and hides what it can't show properly, basically, in motion. There's a fun one for you. It's just like Bloom. Bloom was almost originally created to properly use, properly used at the time, to hide like the lack of textures and low quality textures. They just blind you with everything and hide it with light, basically. Now, thankfully, all that stuff is fixed unless you go back and play Oblivion or Halo 4. But anyway, getting off topic again. God, I love to talk, and technology is great sometimes, isn't it? But we've got high field of view custom lenses. Now, this is a bold claim. A lot of people have issues with the field of view in VR headsets because some people will say it's too narrow. Some people will say it's a decent field of view, but they can still tell they're watching in a headset because the field of view, like you instead of seeing wherever, you need to see further. You need your peripherals. That's what am I doing? With my hands to my head like that. It's you get the idea. You know what field of view is. They've got lens adjustment done right. Now, this is an interesting one because I know it's not exactly the same because Valve and Oculus, but I know my Oculus Rift, the lens adjustment in between the eyes isn't perfect. I can get it to the best place I want, but it's still, I don't want to say slightly uncomfortable. I'm aware that I'm wearing it, and I'm aware that it's not in the absolute best possible place for me. So, they say lens adjustment is done right, but I'm pretty sure Oculus said that with some of their other stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, the best lens adjustment, and yeah, we'll see, we'll see, Lord Gaben, we'll see. And high geometric stability, straight lines stay straight. Now, this will go back with many things they say. It couples in with the resolution and the persistence and all as well. They have some type of stability because obviously when you're wearing a headset, you do shake ever so slightly as you're doing it. So everything is constantly moving, different angles and whatnot. So they say straight lines will stay straight. Who knows? Whatever it is. And they've got optical canting, which balances inner and outer field of view, and software that ensures that devs don't have to worry about it. Again, this is something very, very strange, and it screams PR speak to me. Now, for all I know, it could be a real thing. It could be a very minor thing that just ever so slightly improves FOV inside and outside. And the software could be very minor to help offset anything that devs may or may not have to worry about. I don't know. We'll see. We have to wait for these things to get into people's hands to test it out properly rather than go off marketing and PR speak. Now, it's 120 Hz refresh rate with an experimental 144 Hz mode. I think this is a very, very important thing and very, very good in that regards. A lot of places, a lot of the old headsets now would run at 90 Hz. They would generally run at 45 Hz per eye, which is still technically not great because you're looking at getting 45 Hz instead of a minimum of, say, 60. It's obviously fluid motion and whatnot. But of course, the big problem is pushing the graphics. Not so much pushing the graphics, but being able to push those 3D models and all, rendering two separate things at the resolutions per eye, 45, 60, 90, whatever frame rate. So that could be a problem. With 120 Hz, you will get the fluidity. You'll get 60 Hz per eye. So that's going to be great. And of course, you could even get 72 Hz per eye if their experimental mode and experimental 144 Hz mode goes well. But anyway, we'll have to see. It's backwards compatible with games designed for 90 Hz screens. So any old game, any VR game that's designed for the previous headsets like the Vive or the Oculus Rift, the 90 Hz ones, it'll be backwards compatible. So it will scale down to 90 Hz and refresh properly so they don't get broken or have screen tearing. Because imagine getting screen tearing in a VR game like that close to your eye. Most people probably puke. It'd be like playing a Labo in VR for Zelda. Now, where were you? Backwards compatible. It's got built-in speakers that don't touch your ears. I don't really know how to feel about that. I know my Oculus Rift has built-in speakers. They do sit on your ears, but I never felt them uncomfortable. To be honest, I kind of forgot they're there a lot of the time. I would prefer if I could wear my big headphones, but I realize when I'm wearing big headset and all, it's just not it's not viable. But we've got modability through. I'm gonna have to read this like 2 or 3 times. Modability through front USB space and stereo cameras. So apparently there's front USB space. I have no idea. Stereo cameras. I don't know. Are they saying you can mod the headset to have the cameras in different places and all, and work on it that way? I don't know. We got Base Station 2.0, the sensors you mount over your play space. They have longer range and wider field of view. So again, like my Oculus Rift, sensors, I believe on the Vive ones before, they could be like mounted up on the wall, like kind of small little Bose speakers. But we'll have to see anyway. The claims are usual, bigger range, wider FOV, all that stuff. And the index is compatible with 1.0 base stations too, which are the ones included with the HTC Vive there. So if you do have the previous one, you can just get that and work on it from there. They also come with the new and improved Knuckles controllers. They're Knuckles controllers. It's just kind of their nickname. But they've got 87 sensors for optical, motion, capacitive, and force-based controls. So there's all sorts of different stuff. It worries. It's more worried about, say, how you move your fingers, how you move your thumbs, and all that. Whatever, backwards. How you do all that stuff, how you're moving, where your fingers are placed, all that stuff, instead of directly pressing buttons. There are physically force feedback buttons on there too, because, well, why wouldn't there be? It would be a terrible idea not to have them. We don't want to play fucking mobile games or something. But they're supposedly very, very high tech and very upgraded over anything, including even the Vive ones or anything the Oculus Rift offers. So that's possibly promising. Now, here's the interesting part on it. We have all the different variations for sale for the Valve Index. So we have the full VR kit, which will obviously come with the base station, the headset, and some controllers, for $999, £919, or €1,079. You can get the Index headset and controllers if you don't need the base station. $749, £689, or €799. You can get the Index headset by itself, $499, £459, or €539. You can get two Index controllers by themselves, $279, £259, or €299. And you can get the base station 2.0. This only comes with one base station, interestingly enough, whereas the controller bundle obviously comes with two controllers, that is. So the base station is $149 or £139 or €159. That's obviously a lot of stuff to take into consideration. A lot of physical space investment, a lot of monetary investment as well for something that still has yet to prove itself. I personally enjoy VR. It's not there yet, but if people, development studios and creators and all, if they keep pushing forward and other companies come out with better VR tech, better tracking, higher resolution, as well as anything that can make it more immersive and better to work with, I do think, while I don't think it will become the mainstream, I think it will become secondary. Like right now, it's just a complete separate peripheral, basically. But I do think it has the potential to come separate, to come secondly. So we'll see how it goes. I know Sony are liking what they're doing with it. They said, what is it? They've got like 98 million PS4s sold, and they've got like 4 million PSVRs or something like that. And PS5 is going to support the PS4 VR, and it will probably have its own headset and everything going forward. But we'll see how it goes. We leave that alone for now because that's basically it. The only other thing to mention is that there's supposedly 3 big blockbuster games in development for the Valve Index. One of them is somehow, I don't know how they do this, but I think there are people who are just drumming it up on baseless speculation. But there's a potential Half-Life game in some way, shape, or form in development for the Valve Index. We'll have to wait and see. But you know how these studios and companies are, and the reporters, am I right? So, moving along away from VR, we have Sega. Now, Sega aren't in the best situation at the moment. They've just released their latest financials from the previous year. We all know that April is the... what do we call it? April is the start of the financial year, so we have Sega's previous year financials. So their digital games market and their slot machine market have decreased in revenue. And unfortunately for Sega, they have an overall operating loss of $17 million. Now, technically, that's not a huge amount by the size of the corporation and their general income and whatnot, but it's still a loss, which is a very important thing to note. And naturally, people, companies, investors, stockholders, shareholders, everyone does not like loss at all, in any way, shape, or form. But we do have some details on the whole thing. So, Sega originally intended... I'm still fucking dying here. It wants to cough, but... no. I'm going to beat this. It's my body. I'm in control of this shit. They wanted to release 12 digital-only games over the past 12 months, the previous financial year. However, they only released 8 of those games. Now, they didn't go into detail on what they were. Some of them, off the top of my head, that I can think of would be Yakuza 0 on PC, Yakuza Kiwami. Yakuza Kiwami 2 probably doesn't count because it's not out just yet. It's out a few days from now. But the big thing is that 4 of these games were delayed outside of the release. One of these games we know which it is, which is Yakuza 6, because Yakuza 6 is supposed to launch on PC with the new engine, the same one that Kiwami 2 uses, but that was delayed. We know that from the previous year, from when was it? I think the announcement or whatever was out in about July, August of last year, maybe September, when they mentioned that Yakuza 6 would be coming to PC in an investor call, but obviously it was delayed or something, one of the 4 games here. But they've said that going forward they want to focus on existing IPs because it's easier to create from a baseline, from a template of stuff that already exists. If you have, say, I don't know, Sonic, you have Sonic characters, Sonic World, Sonic IP, Sonic everything, you have that already made, and you have that as your jumping off point. So they can potentially get something like that faster, and they want to focus on their existing IPs. Now, as well, they want to do more PC ports of older games. Now, when I say older games, I basically mean just anything that's already out. They want to do more PC ports because they reported that all their PC ports that they've launched in the last year, and I say that in a way as they're specifically talking about if a game launches on Xbox One, PS4, and PC at the same time, they're not specifically talking about those. They're more so talking about old games, even if it's only 6 months old or whatever, maybe 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, then being ported over. They've been doing really well. Now, we all know that as well. Sega, when they ported over the Shenmue HD collection, that did really well on PC. Yakuza, the Yakuza series with Yakuza 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 has been doing great on PC. Katarang Classic, which is Atlus's first proper game on PC, that did really well. It was well received. It was all really good. So it's happening. They're doing really well. Sega are very happy with how the PC ports are being bought and purchased, and how well they're being received in many ways, shapes, and forms. And they're also looking at bringing over some existing IPs, some that are previously console exclusive, over to PC with ports and all. We've seen this a couple of times already with Shenmue 2, I guess you could call them the one thing, Katarang Classic, and the Yakuza series. And they've also specifically listed Persona in the same sentence. We know there's no proper Persona yet. Let's get Persona 5 over. The hell, you know what? Like I said it, I think it was last week, maybe the week before. Let's get Persona 1, both versions of Persona 2. Let's get Persona 3, either FES or portable. Let's get Persona 4 Golden. Let's get Persona 5 or Persona 5 the Royal over. And I will fucking buy all of them. I will buy all of them. There are many people out there who will gladly buy pretty much all those Persona games day one because we love them and it'll come over. We'll see how it goes anyway. It's going to be an interesting year for Sega to see how it happens. Hopefully, I can't wait to see Yakuza 6. I can't wait to see a bunch of the Persona games. And hopefully, because we'll hopefully get not Persona, what is it? Yakuza. The Yakuza 3, 4, and 5, like remaster kind of thing. I'm sure that'll be ported over to complete the whole series on PC. But moving along away from Sega, we've got Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered. Now, I'm only going to talk about this for a second because where the fuck is the game? Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered was announced last year when basically a slew of new and ports of older Final Fantasies at the same time were launched. There was the Chocobo's, Buddy Dungeon or whatever. We have release dates and all for that. There's ports of Final Fantasy 7, ports of Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 10, Final Fantasy 12. Ooh, sorry, microphone. 10, 12 to existing platforms like Xbox One and Switch and all. But Crystal Chronicles has remained kind of absent from a lot of the stuff ever since its initial announcement. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to pick it up on PS4. Might even buy 1 month of PlayStation Plus just so I can play it online with a friend. But give me some more details. Square Enix have their own show kind of thing, their own Nintendo Direct or Square Enix Direct, whatever they're calling it, at E3. Hopefully we see more of it then, possibly with a release date, and hopefully fairly soon. Now, moving along, this next one, I don't even know, I didn't know anything about this. This one has been several years in the making. Or specifically, 5 years in the making. It's also been 1 million likes and 12 tattoos in the making. Apparently, a couple of years ago, as an April Fool's Day joke, Razer, that company who makes broken PC peripherals, they put out a joke about making a toaster. Now, I've seen the picture of this toaster, the concept art, and the original meme they did on it. It actually looks pretty cool, I'm not going to lie. Take out maybe the green light on it and the Razer logo, and it actually looks like a kind of cool toaster. But anyway, for 5 years now, people have been campaigning to get this properly made, to get this completely actually released as a retail product. Now, they hit 1 million likes recently, 12 tattoos. It's taken them 5 years. But the CEO of Razer said, okay, I promised if 1 million likes happens, we're going to do this. We're going to bring it to market. And it turns out he saw this. He saw it hit 1 million, and he's going to live up to it. He's going to be a man of his word. He said, okay, it's taken 5 years, 1 million likes and 12 tattoos. It's going to take me a couple of years, but me and my engineers, we're going to do this. So in a few years from now, what are we in, 2019, maybe 2022, maybe even beyond, you guys can all look forward to buying a Razer designed, themed, and produced toaster. I hope you enjoy buying it. It looks kind of cool. But just remember, when you buy it and you open it, it's already broken because it is a Razer product. And they are like the worst thing since Mad Cats. It just feels bad, man. Feels bad, man. So moving along to other shitty companies, because, well, Razer, it's one of them. We're going to go with our boy, Randy Pitchford. Because at this point, it wouldn't be a podcast episode if we didn't talk about Randy Pitchford and his millions upon millions of lies. Because he's Randy Pitchford. He wants to make everyone hate him. And this time, he's being so Randy. Like, that's so Randy is all I can say to this. So Randy Pitchford, they had the Borderlands 3 proper world first gameplay reveal. Okay? They did all of that, fair enough. Randy Pitchford got on stage. And he was talking up all the storm as he usually did. Now, a couple of years back, I think it was a couple of years back. It might have even been last year or the year before. But Randy Pitchford specifically said that Borderlands 3 will have no microtransactions. And then again, on stage today, or on stage a few days ago, he said during this presentation, yeah, we're not going to have microtransactions. So he said it again. He reiterated that point. And then in the very next sentence, he said it will be limited to cosmetics. I'm sorry, Randy. He tried to clarify a few days later, or the next day, whenever it was, that he goes, I clearly meant microtransactions for special currency and pay-to-win items and loot boxes. No, Randy. A microtransaction is a microtransaction. It doesn't matter if it's a loot box, if it's currency, if it's fucking cosmetic only. A microtransaction is still a fucking microtransaction. You can damage control this all you want. Like I said, he was on Twitter trying to damage control the whole thing. He goes, I clearly meant this, that, and the other. Hack journalists with their clickbait, that, and this, that, and the other. No, Randy. Cosmetics are fucking microtransactions. You're a fucking idiot. Everyone hates you. Stop talking. Do yourself a favor. And do your company a favor. And stop fucking talking. You're making a fool of yourself. But speaking of Randy Pitchford and Borderlands and Gearbox and, well, the Epic Store in general, really. Epic is acquiring the Rocket League developer, Psyonix. I hope I said that right. Psyonix. It looks like it's Psyonix anyway. Now, this has some wide-reaching implications, and a lot of people are kind of worried about it here. So, for the short term, now, see, they're not just buying Rocket League as an exclusive or anything. They're straight up buying the studio for Rocket League. So they are owning the studio. They're going to, as long as the deal goes through properly and all, it'll be all well and good. Now, for the immediate short-term future, Rocket League will still be available for purchase brand new on Steam. So if, like me, you don't have a copy, you could go and buy a copy of it on Steam for now, which is all fair enough. It will launch on the Epic Store at some point later this year in 2019. And on that launch, 2019 Epic Store launch, it will be removed from Steam. Now, of course, if you have the Steam version, you can still play it. There's a couple of questions still up in the air at the moment. Will it be cross-play with the Epic Store? Like, will the entire PC version just be cross-play with itself? Will the Steam version be separate? Will it be cross-play with the Epic Store? What's going to change? We don't know yet. Now, here's also some interesting stuff. So that Steam will be supported for existing purchasers going forward, which basically says that whenever there's new content or whenever there's a new patch, a new update or whatever, it will be supported for anyone who owns it on Steam at the same time as Epic. Well, we would hope it's the same time as Epic anyway, but who knows? It's Epic in 2019 with all the stuff they're doing. And we have the deal that's going through to buy Psyonix. If it all goes through properly and there's no setbacks or anything like that, it will be finalized at the end of May or early June. So that's all interesting and all as well. One thing I want to say in particular to this, actually two things really. The first one I will say is that I wonder how the loot boxes are going to work. Rocket League has loot boxes. You buy keys to these boxes, I think it's called, and you can open them. So when it gets removed from Steam, are they still going to sell the loot boxes and all on Steam? I imagine they would. I don't think Valve would block them, because Valve still gets a cut of everything that's sold, and Rocket League is a big game that makes a lot of money. Or are they only going to sell them on Steam or on Epic Store? Because think about it. That would mean one player base, the Steam ones, wouldn't have access to something else that's on the other one. There's also the whole modding community question. How's that going to work too? We'll have to wait and see. But one thing I do note here, I have it written down. It's kind of interesting because since they're buying the developer and they're taking the game off Steam later this year, not even EA did that. They didn't retroactively remove any of their games when they created Origin for Battlefield 3. Well, I guess technically it's around before, but they mainly designed it for Battlefield 3 and everything going around there and beyond. But not even EA retroactively removed all their games. Dead Space 1 and 2 are still on Steam. Some of the Crysis games are still on Steam. Some of the early I think it's Sims 3 is still on Steam. There's a bunch of older EA games still on Steam. Because when you think about it, it still behooves them to sell games on Steam. A lot of people won't move over to Origin, just like a lot of people won't move over to the Epic Game Store. So it still behooves them to leave them on there and sell them. But of course, Epic are in a bit of a better position for that with Rocket League, because a lot of people want to play Rocket League. How many people want to go back all these years later and play Dead Space? Don't get me wrong, I know I would. I play Dead Space occasionally. But you see my point. How many people would buy a new copy of Dead Space in 2019 versus Rocket League in 2019? Am I right? So it's something I've said before, that when companies are trying to leverage themselves into getting people to move over onto their own platforms, like their own digital distribution platforms, you need a big game, you need a hook, you need a reason. I suppose Epic is technically Fortnite. EA is pretty much any of the, I guess you could call it FIFA or the sports games or the Battlefield games. So you need stuff to do that. Just tell Bethesda, which is why their one completely flopped. No one was moving over for Fallout 76, Todd. I don't know what the fuck you were thinking. But I just think that's very curious anyway. But moving along, away from Epic and all, we have Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, the game from Koji Igarashi, the wannabe Metroid clone. Well, you know what? I can't even call it a Metroid clone. The Castlevania spiritual successor. I refuse to use that other M word that many of you people are probably thinking, oh, Q, you mean this type of game. That genre does not exist. It's a clone and an ape of one of the two. It's not a combination. It's not an Igavania. It's just stop. It's not the M version of that word. It's just get out. When it takes 10 games in one series to do that, and 6 games in the main series, and it still doesn't become the prevalent formula, no, get out. Get out. That's all I say. Anyway, moving along. So we have a proper release date for Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. The fact that the proper release date comes into play is on the Xbox One, PS4, and PC versions will be digitally available on June 18th. And of course, because it is a current release game, the Nintendo Switch version is of course later. But also we have the physical version. So let's go again, right? Xbox One, PS4, and PC digital on June 18th. The physical version will be June 21st for those three platforms. On Nintendo Switch, digitally, it's released 1 week later. We have the June 25th launch date, and the physical one will be the 28th, because of course it wouldn't be a Nintendo Switch release if it wasn't a late version of the game. Now, moving along, we all know I've gone into it anyway, Koji Igarashi, all the usual stuff. But here's the interesting thing. When they put out the most recent feedback, the most recent trailer, the most recent teaser, whatever it is, they specifically included a lot of comparisons. They put the comparisons with some of the old visuals and old styles in the game and the mechanics, and they showed the new version of it and how they've improved on it. They've also said that we have taken your feedback into account, because he also posted up in the video a shitload of negative comments, tweets. It was all feedback and criticisms, essentially. Now, he could have said, put his fingers in his ear, la 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 la, fuck you, I'm Koji Igarashi, I made Castlevania Symphony of the Night, blah blah blah, I have a 20-year legacy of making all these videos, making all these video games, and you know what, I know what I'm doing, I'm right, you're wrong, fuck you. But you know what, he didn't do that. He said these are the people who are going to be buying and playing and probably already supported my game to make it happen. Because don't forget, it's a Kickstarter crowdfunding game. These are the people he should be listening to. And you know what? He said, I took all your feedback on board. We've helped rejig the game. We've improved it. So all I can say is fucking good on him. Because Koji, this is how you do take feedback. And you did it right. Kudos. Big ups to you, Koji. Big ups to you. Speaking of other games that are kind of in a mess and an overall shitty position, we have Anthem. Now, we all know Anthem is a massive legendary flop at this point, but interestingly enough, Anthem staff, some key staff, are being moved away from Anthem's, I can't even call it development, Anthem's life support, if you will. They're being moved on to other projects. Specifically noted or teased are the Dragon Age 4 project. Now, we all know that that's hopefully, it's probably going to turn out like Dragon Age presents Anthem. Basically, it's going to be one of them, Anthem X Dragon Age. But the executive producer and the lead producer for Anthem have been moved off the project and onto Dragon Age. So a lot of people are worried about this. Are EA just kind of abandoning it? Are they putting on life support? Are they giving it a proper overhaul or whatever? And I'm in two minds about this, because a lot of people are worried about it. The two different schools of thought I have on this that I can't fully decide on is, number one, you don't need your 100% staff to salvage the game. A lot of the people who created it aren't required anymore, essentially. You can do it, the base game is out, you can fix it with less people. You might only need 1 or 2 loot designers instead of a whole team of loot designers. You might only need 1 producer or 1 creative mind instead of a team of them or the top guy. Now, I realize that would generally have better quality and possibly get stuff along faster, but it's easier to fix some of their problems because they have the baseline of their problems. They know what they're doing. Well, in theory, they know what they're doing. They know what the problem is and where to go from there. Instead of just create something, it turns into a problem, and then figure it all out. So in theory, you don't need the 100% to do that. However, the other school I have here is it's EA. They have your money. You're an afterthought. Fuck you. That's basically it. Because the game is not pay to play. You have to buy the game in order to play it. At which point, they have your money. Even if you never play the game again, they have your money. You're fucked regardless. So that's a big problem. Now, it's EA, so I do think that it is very, very possible that they could just say, oh, you know what, we have it all, fuck you, we'll give you bare minimum, like it's Destiny 1 trying to fix for several years, and that's about it. I want to lean about maybe 55 to 60% on that side. and the other one is, 45 to 40% that they don't need their whole team in order to fix it. We'll see how it goes. I think the game is basically dead on arrival, and the game was dead on arrival. And I think it's completely unsalvageable at this point. But woo lad, one more flop and Bioware are done for. But anyway, a new report has come out that has said that by 2023, there will be an estimated 354 million PC gamers in China alone. Let me say that again. 354 million PC gamers in China alone. Now, this is exceptionally good news to me. I think this is very, very, very funny, especially because that will put more PC gamers in one country than the entire population of the US. Now, I could just do this and rub it in people's faces just because, so many PC gamers. We all know the PC is the biggest and best platform. It has the biggest community, has the most amount of players. That's 100% fact. It's not up for debate in any way, shape, or form, even if you are a console fanboy. But here is the funny thing. The reason why I'm talking about this, I'm not doing it just because of this. The reason I'm talking about this is a problem or a topic I brought up, I believe it was last week. And in that topic, an analyst claimed that 20 million PC gamers are going to abandon PC gaming in favor for what do they call it? TV-based gaming services. Be it consoles, be it streaming, whatever, like streaming games through like Google Stadia or whatever. And yet, here we have a country who have strict government restrictions on games and have had a roughly year-long licensing game hiatus where no new games could be approved and licensed for distribution in China. Despite both of those things, the number of PC gamers in the country has been booming and growing every single year, despite all those major roadblocks. So despite all of that, and the huge number and amount of gamers, they still think that 20 million people are going to abandon it, just go to TV stuff and streaming and whatever, consoles, whatever it is. Get the fuck out of here. That is why I'm talking about this. It just completely flies in the face of anyone who claimed that. It just really goes to show that these analysts have no idea. It's almost like they're trying to hype up new consoles or some shit. It's these people anyway. So I'm gonna go with one last topic before we round out with our usual little outro, and that is the new Call of Duty game. I don't really have much to say about this. There was an investor call recently where the CEO of Activision and Blizzard, he just said, you know what, we're going to debut the new Call of Duty game in some way, shape, or form by the end of June, which kind of makes sense because if they're going to have their own reveal event, it will be probably in May which is this month, or possibly even next month when E3 happens, because, well, one of the biggest shows of the year. So, it's when a lot of people show that stuff off. It's tipped to be Modern Warfare 4. I don't know whose turn it is this year to make the games. I'm going to assume because it's probably Modern Warfare 4, it's probably Infinity Ward, possibly Sledgehammer, but it's not Treyarch because we all know Treyarch made Black Ops last year. So also it's tipped to have a campaign, which kind of makes sense, I guess, because, well, they're trying different things, and one of them is a Battle Royale, but the other one, if it is Modern Warfare 4, naturally it needs to have a campaign. It's not, I'm going to say this as well, many people will freak out and lose their minds. They will think that just because it's Modern Warfare 4 means it's automatically going to be great and amazing. You have to remember, a lot of the team, a lot of the talent, a lot of the people, the writers, the directors, the designers, all this stuff are gone. They've changed. And you could take Resident Evil 6 and just slap Modern Warfare 4 skin on it. Or the name Modern Warfare 4. Just because it's made by something relative, although I guess Resident Evil 6 isn't made by anything relative, but you can put a skin or a name on anything. Doesn't automatically mean it's going to be good. Hell, look at Resident Evil, that's a perfect example. Look at the Resident Evil as a series before Resident Evil 6. Then look at Resident Evil 6. Boom, there's my perfect example. That lined up perfectly, even though I completely didn't mean to. So, we'll have to see how it goes in that regard. Anyway, that's going to be it for here. So we are going to just round out with the last little bit on what we have here, which is usually what am I doing? I don't have much to do at the moment, believe it or not. I'm playing through Yakuza 0, which is all well and good. I'm still really enjoying myself going from there. I offer a few days, and I've been really itching to play and get back into the game. So that's coming back soon. Hopefully tomorrow, I think it is, or well, depending on when you see this, I think it's coming back tomorrow for me at least. Anyway, um, that's basically it. Batman the animated series is basically on hold. I have no other main stuff to do. However, I will say this: based on Borderlands and possibly Yakuza, I am hoping to start the Dank Souls 3 live stream event, live stream playthrough, whatever, possibly within a few weeks. Possibly by the end of the month, by the end of May 2019. I realize that's a big if and a big window and all as well, but I have a reason for it. I want to, but the way I play games, like I play some stuff for myself. I play Borderlands, for example, late at night with others, and we play co-op and stuff. That would be when I would usually stream, but obviously I'm playing co-op with the guys, so that doesn't fit in there. I want to get to the point where we hit max level in Borderlands. Maybe we grind for a little bit, we complete all the DLCs and the stories again and all stuff, and then maybe we're taking a little break, because I want to be able to do it in a way that I can play Dark Souls, I can stream it for, like, I don't know, maybe 4 nights in a row, take one night off, and then 4 nights in a row, something like that. I don't want to be just streaming once a week with Dank Souls, or, maybe once or twice, and then wait for 2 weeks and stream more. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to go proper and do the whole thing with it, because, well, I want to prove how everyone's a bitch, and that game is actually easy, and when you're a proper gamer with actual skill who doesn't let it get dull, well, we'll see how it goes. Other than that, I will say I'm going to be streaming Life is Strange 2 later this week on Thursday. Unfortunately, I am working late that night. So, it's going to launch at its usual Steam release time, I believe, which is like 5 or 6 in the afternoon. However, I won't be getting a chance to stream it until that night at about probably 10, but somewhere between 10 and 11 p.m. So, that's a bit unfortunate, but I will get it done on Thursday night. It'll probably last about 3 hours long. Hopefully I'll see you there for that one, because we'll see how it goes, because I know with the release timings and the release dates and all being so far apart, I'm just kind of falling out of love with the game. I'm basically becoming uninvested, disinvested, divested. I think divested is a proper one. I'm becoming divested with the characters, with the story and all. There's just too big of a gap in between it. This is something I forgot previously, why I don't buy and play episodic games anymore. I usually wait till they're done. But because of, if you remember when I was getting into Life is Strange and Before the Storm, it was all within a very, very small, slow period of time. So we have to see. It's kind of my own fault, but we'll see how it goes. Especially because with episodes 4 and 5 of Life is Strange 2, there's going to be another very big protracted gap, and it's going to be a bit of a killer. Especially the gap between, what is that? I think it's now May and August, I think, and then August and December. I mean, that's rough, dog. I'm not going to lie. But anyway, that's it. That's where we are done here for the evening. I don't think there's any other games coming out that I want to talk about. There's any other games that I plan on playing in the near future. Obviously, Yakuza's taking up a lot of that time. Maybe Yakuza Kiwami, then eventually on to Kiwami 2. But I think that's it. Hopefully we get some random news about Grandia HD Remastered, actually. That would be a nice one, because, well, that was supposed to be out last year. But yeah, I think that's it. Off the top of my head, that's it. So, yeah, I want to thank everyone for joining me here on episode 6 of the Quack Experimental Podcast. We will slide into the DMs as you need. Leave a comment as you need. We can figure out something to talk about if there is something that I find piques my interest, or you think might pique my interest. Let me know how I did. If you enjoyed it, whatever, with the, what do we call it, the appropriate button with a thumbs up or a thumbs down on video. Why not? I'm terrible at the intro. I'm terrible at the outro on these podcasts for some reason. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I've been talking for 53 minutes, and yeah, I get a little bit flustered, a little bit tired and burnt out, if you will. But anyway, let me know all that good stuff as usual. Feel free to hit the subscribe button and ring the little notification bell, especially if you want to get those Dank Souls live stream. If you want to be amazed by someone who's not bad at games and just wants to make everyone aware that they suck at Dank Souls by playing the first one ever, Dank Souls 3, my first Dank Souls game ever, and I will show people how it's done. Anyway, that's it for now and all of that. I will see you guys next week or on whatever video it is. But until then, remember, winners don't play switch ports.